So everyone can take a seat. Thank you. So we'll just let Mary cue us in regards to our live stream. We're good? Okay. Invite staff to take a seat as well. So, of course, Council, as you will have noted, perhaps an unusual amount of pomp and circumstance to arrive for tonight's council meeting. We're very honored to have members of the Royal Canadian Legion, and they will be invited to participate in a delegation a little bit later. But before we get there, I'm going to invite a council colleague to read our land acknowledgement. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous-informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. So with that, we'll just proceed to a few opening remarks before asking for the adoption of the agenda. These are some reminders for the community and anyone watching. As most of you know, we now have a fully operational CT scanner at the Kemptville District Hospital. And of course, this materialized with contributions from the municipality, the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and an incredibly amount of generosity from the community writ large with the leadership of the Kemptville District Hospital Foundation. So we're all invited, as the community is, to the launch, the ribbon cutting for the Tallman Family CT scanner. It's been operational now for a number of months, and we know what it means to this community to have a CT scanner right here at home. It means less transfers required by paramedics to other hospitals. It means quicker diagnostics. It means an expansion to our surgical program, among many other things. So it'll be really nice to do the ribbon cutting. Just a reminder as well, we have our cooling center here at the municipality. Of course, by virtue of keeping one of our arenas open throughout the year, anyone who needs a reprieve from the heat is invited to drop by the arena lobby from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's water, there's wireless, and often it's very quiet, except for a few hockey families. So please feel free to drop by if required. A reminder that while the splash pad has been down during the height of this heat wave, which is obviously very unfortunate, we know, Ms. Dunlop, that as of tomorrow afternoon-ish, it will be operational. A pump had to be procured and installed, and there's some testing required tomorrow. Council colleagues may remember that our splash pad uses recycled water, and it probably means that the pressures on those pumps may be a little more significant than a standard splash pad. But obviously, we're glad to see it come back online tomorrow. Two other things very quickly. We've got Canada Day celebrations, both at Riverside Park and Oxford Mills, but of course we always start with a fine breakfast and flag raising at the Legion, so look forward to kicking things off there. And finally, a heartfelt congratulations to the graduating class of 2025 from St. Michael's Catholic School and North Grenville District High, as well as Rivière-Rideau and Notre-Dame High Schools. Obviously, a big, big moment for hundreds of families in this community that are saluting the accomplishments of their grade 12 grads. And I know a number of us will have the opportunity to be at ceremonies later this week. So with that, I'll look to council colleagues for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Strachan, Councillor O'Sullivan, thank you very much. Any questions or comments, colleagues, on the agenda? Not seeing any. We will move on. I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. Next is declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof in regards to any perceived or real financial benefit or loss arising from items on tonight's agenda. Any declarations? Seeing none, we'll go straight to deputations. And of course, it's my pleasure to welcome both President and past President from our Royal Canadian Legion, I think, to come to the mic. There you go.
Thank you. Your Worship, members of council, and senior staff, comrades, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian McCrosty, and I am the President of the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 212, Kemptville. My co-presenter, Jay Tusaw, is the immediate past president, and we wish to share the honor of presenting you, our mayor, with the Royal Canadian Legion Friendship Award. This particular award exists to honor and recognize individuals and organizations other than Legion members who have rendered assistance, service, or cooperation to the Legion beyond that which could normally be anticipated or expected. The award consists of a commemorative Legion medal along with a framed certificate. The citation for this special award was duly supported by our membership and submitted to the Royal Canadian Legion Ontario Command for approval. The citation reads as follows. Mayor Nancy Peckford is known for her exemplary leadership, fostered by a deep commitment to the well-being of North Granville and the residents she serves. Through her tireless efforts, she has brought about a spirit of unity and support, ensuring that the needs of our community and our local veterans are always prioritized at the municipal level. Her ongoing and much appreciated dedication in recognizing the sacrifices made by our veterans and military personnel has earned her the respect and gratitude of all of us who have had the privilege of working with her. Throughout her tenure as mayor of the municipality of North Granville, Mayor Peckford has been a steadfast advocate for programs in honor of those who have served our country, and her efforts have had a significant and positive effect on the lives of our veterans and their families. Mayor Peckford has personally supported and participated in several high-profile remembrance projects and related programs in our community, which includes the North Granville Sites of Remembrance, commemorative naming of Prescott Street as Remembrance Way, the Branch 212 Kemptville Honor Our Veterans Banner Program, the Kemptville Cenotaph Restoration Project, the 100th anniversary of the Kemptville Cenotaph, as well as being an active participant in many of our social events, formal celebrations, and Legion's honors and awards ceremonies. For her unwavering support of our veterans and members and her continued efforts to assist us ensuring that the legacy of those who served is not forgotten, we wholeheartedly recommend Mayor Nancy Peckford for this prestigious honor. Mayor Peckford, please come forward and join Jay and I for the official presentation.
Thank you so much, and certainly to Brian and Jay and to all members of Branch 212 of the Royal Canadian Legion. It is clearly very humbling to receive this Friendship Award. I am, on behalf of Council, deeply honored by your recognition, and I'm really grateful for the strong partnership we forged together over various initiatives. And Mr. Roy Brown, of course, as we all know, has been steadfast in his leadership. And I certainly remember one of the first communications we had, I think he dropped off a very substantial package to us in the early days of the pandemic. And I didn't get it right away. And Roy reached out. Personally, I think in the chaos of the pandemic, obviously things were we were having some challenges just managing all of the requests, but once Roy and I sat down with some colleagues to really pursue some incredible initiatives together, I just want to say it's been a real honor to be on this journey with you, and my council colleagues have been so incredibly supportive and have engaged in the process with us, and we've had the benefit of fantastic collaboration with staff. So we really are so appreciative that you're in our community and that you give so much of your time, your energy, your expertise, your resources, and I know there's so much more we can do together. So it means a lot that I've been personally honored, but moreover, it's just an honor on behalf of council and the community to be able to do this work with you. It's one of the things I cherish the most about serving in this capacity. So thank you so much for taking the time this evening. And I will tell you, you are not obligated to stay. So we are going to carry on with our deputations. But Legion colleagues, I know you work hard and have long days, so you are more than welcome to take your leave at any time. We'll carry on with an agenda that may not be as riveting as this particular moment. So, of course, entirely at your discretion. Thank you again. Thank you, Roy. Okay, colleagues, we'll move on then to our consent agenda. Of course, you'll see that there are a number of recommendations for inclusion on the consent agenda, and I'll look to council colleagues for any proposed additions. Apologies, edits, amendments, not additions, of course, edits or amendments. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to see the automated speed enforcement, item G1, and the 2025 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Fund allocations, item G2, removed from the consent agenda, please.
Indeed. And I was going to add to that the Campus Reserve Fund draw. So we all have a modified consent agenda, removing those first three items should council approve the shortened consent agenda. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Strachan, thank you. And I will call the question on the remaining items on the consent agenda. All in favor? Great, that passes. Next, of course, we have automated speed enforcement. As you know, we have been putting the pieces into place for an automated speed enforcement program. You'll recall that we met and closed a number of weeks ago to get some substantial information and make a recommendation in regards to the municipality pursuing negotiations with Global Traffic Group. And tonight, the recommendation is before us. Who is delivering that report? Is it Ms. Martin? Excellent. All right, Ms. Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as Council recalls, back in 2021-2022, staff began doing research in regards to the automated speed enforcement as directed by Council. Back at that time, the cost to implement automated speed enforcement was quite high. Many joint processing centers were overloaded, and the program is being primarily implemented by single-tier and upper-tier municipalities, with enforcement handled through traditional court proceedings. At this time, it was also noted that automated speed enforcement could be more effective with an administrative monetary penalty system in place, which the municipality implemented at the beginning of this year. In February of this year, staff began conducting further research and found that there had been significant advancements in regards to the integrated automated speed enforcement within the AMP system. We approached 2 vendors that had successfully completed pilot projects with separate municipalities and that were expanding their program to accommodate additional municipalities. Staff did meet with LAS, the business arm of AMO, and Global Traffic Group. Both are Canadian-based vendors, to discuss their capabilities in supporting the implementation of the automated speed enforcement, specifically on Concession Road. They can only be implemented within community safety zones, of which this is a community safety zone on Concession Road. Based on direction from council, staff have engaged in negotiations with Global Traffic Group, which resulted in a draft agreement that is tailored to meet the regulatory requirements of the program. So the introduction of automated speed enforcement and the installation of appropriate regulatory signage is expected to enhance safety within community safety zones by effectively reducing vehicular speeds. If council has any questions related to automated speed enforcement, happy to take them at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Strachian.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor, to Director Martin. Perhaps it's for the public that are watching, members of the public who are watching, could you identify the other community safety zones in our community, in our municipality? And are there options to expand beyond that? What are we limited to, and is it only for the community safety zones? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Strachian. Through your worship, I'll do my best to answer. And and if there's additional information I can provide, I'll go back to our manager of bylaw services for that. So we do have additional community safety zones, one being particularly on County Road 44, where Kentville Public School is. We would want to consult with the counties before implementing any further speed enforcement in regards to ASE, as Concession Road is under our jurisdiction. I'd have to get a better understanding, and perhaps the CIO can provide some additional context in regards to the county relationship about implementing ASE on county roads, because again, it's a road not under our authority. But for any community safety zone on a municipal road, there is the potential to expand. There are requirements that you would have to meet prior to establishing, including notification and signage ahead of the camera being established, all of which I believe our manager of bylaw services has outlined to council previously. But there could be in the future consideration for additional automated speed enforcement throughout the municipality at council's direction.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Martin. And certainly, I too wanted to just better understand the degree to which, at this point, the counties has engaged or signaled a formal interest in participating in the program. Obviously, to your point, we have a couple of community safety zones on county roads. So I know my capacity is county councillor sitting around the county council table. A number of mayors have highlighted the desire to ensure that the counties is a participant. So, Ms. Dunlop, are you able to speak to where things stand with our county colleagues?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. We have had a discussion with the current manager of engineering in regards to ASA and its installation, and we will have some ongoing discussions. All other community safety zones within the within North Granville are on county roads, so it is an active conversation, and probably will require some bump up to the political level.
Certainly, I think the concern is if we have automated speed enforcement on in the community safety zone that we control, which is under municipal jurisdiction, it may look like we are not giving equal consideration to other community safety zones, which are located on county roads. So obviously tonight is a critical step in terms of creating the mechanisms by which automated speed enforcement can come into play, but I certainly am very willing, as I have been in the past, to signal the significance of having the counties be a partner as we go down the road of automated speed enforcement. I know the city of Brockville, which, while not a member of the county, sits at the Joint Services Council, as well as some other municipalities, have expressed a strong interest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing to highlight is this is fairly new in regards to lower tier municipalities, as Director Martin stated earlier. So the coordination between a lower tier and an upper tier is a new thing, although we both have the ability to do automated speed enforcement through the AMP program. So absolutely, we will take it back at a staff level, and then what we can do is we can ask from a political representative that it cross the county table. But we have 5 other school safety zones or community safety zones that we can install ASE to encourage and make sure that the areas are safe as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just one other thing that came up for me is, of course, a number of us were at the Good Roads Conference in April, had the benefit of actually speaking to a couple of elected officials who had recently implemented automated speed enforcement. And I know that they certainly were given the opportunity in partnership with staff to determine certain parameters, the length of the waiting period, the thresholds for the ticketing itself, and some other decisions that are germane to how the program rolls out. And maybe, Ms. Martin, you could inform us of what the process would be or when those crucial next steps would take place.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the question. So the next step would be to enter into that agreement with the Global Traffic Group as recommended by staff. I can ask the manager of bylaw services to put together a timeline as to when those requirements are. He would be more aware of those details as to when we have to inform about those specific parameters associated with ASE. And certainly we could advise council as to when those matters may or will come before council. It depends on the nature of what it is, whether it's something that, it's established more at the staff level through the agreement versus a further communication as to what the municipality would like to see in regard to the parameters raised. But we will provide a timeline, an update once the agreement is implemented as to when those items could be expected. I believe in previous conversations with our manager of bylaw services, it's usually about a 6-month implementation time, kind of on the long end, but it could be relatively shorter. So over the next 6 months, we can provide a snapshot as to what milestones are going to be reached when.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that. And obviously, I think to ensure that the community is fully bought into the program, ample warning times, a period of potential warning tickets were some of the things that were being flagged for us as we talked to some municipal colleagues from neighboring communities or communities more further afield that had the benefit of implementing automated speed enforcement. So looking forward to getting some more insight into those timelines and where the decision points lie for both staff and council. I think we were left with the impression that certain decisions are definitely at a staff level, and there were others that appear to be the purview of council in consultation with staff. So I would look forward to seeing what the program is that would be established in anticipation of automated speed enforcement coming into effect. Colleagues, any other comments or questions? Okay, great. So if there's nothing else, I will look for a mover and a seconder then. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wilson, thank you so much. And in the absence of no other hands, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Next, we're going to go to G2, 2025 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Fund allocation. That is that council approved funding for the 2025 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Fund in the amount of $15,000. And colleagues, you'll see the breakdown as per the recommendations of the advisory committee. So I will look for any questions or comments. I don't believe Ms. Janot is here, but we have two members of council that are on the committee, so looking for any comments. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I asked for this to be removed from consent agenda simply so that we could read out loud the 5 recipients of the $15,000. All the money was expended. We received some wonderful applications, and it covers a wide range of different groups, equity deserving groups. And so this is a blind evaluation, I think, is important to highlight so that it's not biased by who is applying for it, but what they are looking to achieve. And the 5 recipients are focused on events that are for girls programming, events for the Muslim community, an inclusive choir, diversity in STEM event, and the 2S LGBTQIA plus youth programming. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder then, in terms of Councillor Sullivan, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Oh, the seconder was, I think, one of Councillor Sullivan, Deputy Mayor. We'll go in that order. Councillor O'Sullivan, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Strachan, for highlighting that it is a blind evaluation, so names are removed. And I think this is the second year that we've been doing this or pursuing this particular program. And I look forward to hearing about all of the good work that comes from a relatively modest investment in these programs, but they can have a huge impact. The organizational leadership is very significant, so it's nice to see these things coming together. So I have a mover and a seconder. I see no other hands. I'll call the question, please. Thank you. That carries. So moving to the 2025 Kemptville Campus Reserve Fund draw. Certainly, we understand the campus is working incredibly hard in regards to the education and community centers, facilities, and assets. So in asking for this to be removed from the consent agenda, it was not because I had concerns, but it was to invite Ms. Dunlop to provide a little more context in terms of the status of the reserve fund, because the existing reserve fund, as I understand it, doesn't reflect what will be a forthcoming balance for the reserve fund owing to the sale of lands to the French Catholic Board. So maybe, Ms. Dunlop, you could elaborate.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Kemptville campus provides a list, which was attached as part of the report in your package this evening, of annual requirements for capital and other improvements. In 2025, they are requesting $643,000 as a transfer from the Kemptville Campus Reserve Fund to the Kemptville Campus Education and Community Center. With that transfer of $643,000, there is an unaudited reserve balance of about $661,000 left in that reserve. It does not take into consideration Council's approval of the sale of 10 acres of campus land to the school board valued at $3,750,000. That will be in the bank by the end of August, and Council has provided direction in regards to the separation of those funds. It's to go into the campus reserve with 50% dedicated to the operation of the campus Education and Community Center, and then the balance, or the other 50%, towards underground infrastructure repair for the campus property itself. So that is just a quick peek at that specific request. The campus administration and the municipality work very closely together in regards to ongoing understandings for memorandum of understanding and lease, so that we make sure that we're working towards a sustainable model as we move into the future. And that completes my brief summary, Madam Mayor, unless there's questions.
Great, thank you. No, that certainly responds to what I was wanting to ensure I had remembered correctly based upon previous conversations and council direction. Council colleagues, anything else? Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Peckford. Through you to CAO, Karen Dunlop. And I apologize, I probably should have pre-requested this question. The Catholic School Board currently owns a section of the campus for their school that they're currently in.
Through you, Madam Mayor, they lease.
They lease.
They
Okay,
lease.
good, thank you. That's all I needed to know, was for clarity, and yeah, great.
Yes, and maybe for additional context, I think well before this council was elected in 2018, or a variation of this council was elected in 2018, the French Catholic Board had strongly expressed interest in buying a small parcel of land, as was the case for the French Public Board. The French Public Board was able to secure the funding from the Ministry of Education well in advance of the French Catholic Board, but the French Catholic Board was very committed to being on the campus, and despite not having the funds to purchase a small parcel, leased 2 buildings, renovated buildings, have a very strong footprint on the campus, and certainly that will now grow with the acquisition of a larger parcel that will be under their jurisdiction on the edge of campus off of Concession Road. So, Councillor Wilson, your question's a good one, in that they're not looking to double what they own on the campus. They'll release those buildings back to the campus once they've finished the new build. And the buildings they've been occupying under lease are actually in very, very good shape, owing to the kind of renovations the French Catholic Board have done. So they will be left, I think, in good shape, and will be available to the campus for other leasing opportunities. Any other questions, colleagues, in regards to the reserve draw? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to our CAO. The $3,750,000 is split between campus operations and infrastructure. So how far down the road does that $1.8 million get us in terms of taking care of what needs to get taken care of? Thanks.
Through you, Your Worship. I cannot speak to the current status of the building condition assessments. I don't have that at hand. I do know that back in 2018, the underground infrastructure had about a $6 million deficit in regards to repairs. The Public Works Department has undertaken a recent condition assessment of sanitary and storm, and are putting together a repair and maintenance and capital repair program. They are in 2025 budget. There is a $1 million commitment from the HAF funding for underground repairs, and then the $1.875 million will then go back in to underground repairs. The balance of the funds, we work together with the campus board and the campus administration to make sure that they have buildings and maintenance and operational funds to make sure that they're moving in a forward momentum. And as more things are repaired, less things will need to be repaired. So that is the hope as we get through this 1.875 dedicated to the education component.
Plus $1 million from HAF, right?
Yes, there's $1 million from HAF plus 1.875 for underground infrastructure. Then there is the 1.875 that is going back into the campus reserve for things such as the draws that the campus is asking for this year: replacement of windows, roofs, membranes, sidewalks, and roads.
Great, thank you.
Council colleagues, anything else? Not seeing anything? Yep, Council Strahan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think just as a point of interest, I guess not necessarily germane to this because we're looking to make a decision right now, but the Environmental Action Advisory Committee had a discussion yesterday regarding, future improvements within the municipality on various lands, and thought about, where there would be opportunities to make suggestions on improvements that would be of a more environmentally friendly nature, perhaps. The one that stood out in this case is the repaving of certain areas and whether to consider, repaving in a way that may be a more permeable surface rather than simply asphalt and the runoff that comes up from that. So I'm merely putting this out as a thought for council in the future that may see something coming from that committee to explore options, not just when it comes to repaving areas, but anything really. Perhaps roofing would fall under that as well. So just for food for thought. Thank you.
For sure, thank you. So with that, Ms. Remming, I have to be reminded, did we move this particular motion? No, okay. So then I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the authorization of the transfer of $643,000 from the Kemptville Campus Reserve Fund to the Kemptville Campus Education and Community Center on or before July 31st, 2025. Councillor Wilson is moving. Can I have a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor, thank you. And I think we've had a good discussion, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? Excellent. That carries. Thank you. So colleagues, the next two items under G were adopted via the consent agenda, so we'll move on to reports. And under H, we have the interim control bylaw, and this is for wastewater capacity. Of course, Mr. Finley is with us to walk us through the rationale for an interim control bylaw. And I understand, Mr. Finley, that you had an opportunity alongside colleagues to meet with some members of the development community to give them some additional context. So we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will give a bit of background. I will note that Director Martin is a bit more the expert of the bylaw itself, but I have the history and the piece of kind of where we are in terms of our water pollution control plan expansion. As you did mention, and I'm sure Ms. Martin will elaborate more on this, we did meet with the development community to discuss the interim control bylaw that we are presenting in front of council. It was a very well-received discussion for a difficult topic. So I will turn it over to Ms. Martin to run through the presentation, but I can follow up with questions as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Director Finley. If we just go to the next slide, please. So an interim control bylaw is a planning mechanism available to the municipality to address concerns that we may be having, to allow for additional time to study or to look at an issue. So I want to acknowledge that the municipality through staff, as directed by council through our capacity allocation bylaw and the established policy, have been successful in managing the remaining capacity over the last 5 years. If council recalls, staff attended on June 3rd and provided a fulsome overview as to how we've managed capacity over the last 5 years, and Director Finley did provide that update in regards to just where things are at with capacity as well as the plant. As remaining unallocated capacity continues to shrink, staff are of the opinion that an interim control bylaw is necessary for our urban service area to allow for additional time to review our existing planning policies and framework as it relates to capacity within our water and in our wastewater system. Next slide, please. So a lot of the information being presented to council tonight is very similar to the information that Director Finley and I took to our development community. What I do want to say is that through our processes, we've been very open with the development community over the years as projects move forward and more development comes online, that our capacity has been dwindling. But the good news is that we have begun the plant expansion, and if there are questions about that later, Director Finley can answer those. And we see this as a temporary measure to get us through the next year, potentially 2 years, where once the first phase of the plant expansion is completed, we'll see hopefully an increase in that rated capacity. So the Planning Act requires that a planning rationale for an interim control bylaw, and the planning report is quite fulsome and provides this analysis and justification. I'm not going to go into it this evening, but there is a full policy analysis and rationale as to why staff are recommending that we implement an interim control bylaw. So what this will allow for us to do is to review our policies and make recommendations to our existing land use policy as it relates to servicing. So this includes a review of our official plan as well as our zoning bylaw and our zoning practices. This is timely in that we are currently doing our official plan update, so we are already looking at policies. However, staff will be looking at the servicing policies separately from the official plan update to ensure that we meet the legislative requirements under the Planning Act for an interim control bylaw. Next slide, please. So this is a temporary measure to enable staff to evaluate our policies. It will only apply to the urban serviced area, and it will not impact our rural developments. And we will be establishing an exemption process from the interim control bylaw, which will be made through the Committee of Adjustment. And the proposed bylaw is established and set up to allow for that to happen. This is similar to how requests will be made for capacity as it is under our current bylaw. However, it'll be through the Committee of Adjustment, which is council. So those decisions will be coming to the Committee of Adjustment table with staff providing recommendations. Next slide, please. What the interim control bylaw would not restrict would be building permits for things such as decks, additions or renovations where there is no additional wastewater capacity required, pools, accessory structures where there's no additional wastewater capacity required, and one additional residential unit per property. And that is aligns with the fact that we currently have our additional residential unit policy program currently in place. And just we recognize just the limited capacity that they often require. It's not as if we're building, a multi-residential unit that requires a larger amount. But we didn't want to encumber that existing program, which is making great strides in providing alternative forms of housing both in our urban and rural areas. Next slide, please. So what the interim control bylaw would do would essentially freeze development on vacant lots where capacity is required to allow the project to move forward, or those expansions that would require additional wastewater capacity. An exception would be if a building permit has already been approved. So the proposed bylaw recommends an implementation date of July 1st, which is next week. So any building project that has not achieved a building permit or isn't exempted under the proposed interim control bylaw would essentially be frozen and would have to apply for an exemption through the Committee of Adjustment. It would require us, again, kind of repeating myself here in regards to that review and study of our policies. It is in effect for 1 year with the potential for an additional 1-year extension. Interim control bylaws are not appealable in the first year, but if council were to extend it, we may be subject to appeal if we do extend it. So the first year, there would be no mechanism for anybody to appeal the bylaw. Next slide, please. So this is the land use schedule from our official plan, which would also help define our service area. So when we talk about what the urban service area is, it's lands within what we would define as the urban core, the urban area for the town of Kemptville. So it does encompass some lands that aren't on services, and we do recognize that properties that aren't on services, including those to the east of the 416 where we don't have any municipal water or sanitary services would be exempt. So we're just trying to recognize that there are some small pockets where we don't provide services and they're on private servicing, but for the most part, unless it's specifically exempted in the schedule, which I do want to acknowledge staff did provide a revised copy today, which outlined which properties have been allocated capacity and are still developing. So that includes some of our subdivisions like Urbandale's to the Creek and the various phases of Aquanel, which have been granted capacity but are still building out, have been exempted from the bylaw, as well as projects that have received provisional capacity through our application process and haven't achieved building status permit. That includes properties such as 120 Reuben Crescent. It includes some of our developments on our 200 Sanders Street, which again has allocated capacity at this time, and a few others that we've tracked through that process. If an individual for any property wants to apply for a zoning bylaw amendment that isn't on the exemption list, we would also have to put some consideration around an exemption. And again, being through the Committee of Adjustment, it makes it a relatively familiar process for us to be able to take that through. Staff will be evaluating as we go through and as capacity comes back into the system through infiltration improvements and projects that don't achieve a building permit within a year, and we do pull capacity for projects that don't move forward. We'd put some consideration as to how we how we move those forward meaningfully while the interim control bylaw is in place. Next slide, please. I just wanted to kind of touch on our current system for ranking, and staff do have some proposed changes to how we consider our review of applications. So right now we do have a rank system, which is based on a variety of factors, including community benefit, which could be job creation, affordable housing, infrastructure serviceability, and advancement in the approvals process. We currently cap the capacity we do allocate to be no more than 40% of what's remaining. And when we're getting down to a small number, 40% of a small number is an even smaller number. So we recognize that that currently presents a bit of a constraint. We do quarterly intake periods, and there is a 1-year commitment of conditional capacity with the ability for an extension. If we go to the next slide, staff will be looking at removing that 40% cap, doing a biannual intake to allow for more meaningful capacity to return through to the system. And that happens through some of the improvements that Public Works does with our infrastructure side. It also is, as more projects start to come online and are built out, when they apply for capacity, it is a theoretical number. That number does typically come down once the project's online and we actually see the actual flows coming from those facilities. And staff are going to be really stringent on that 1-year commitment of conditional capacity with a limited ability for extension. And that's what we would recommend, is just that there are projects that will keep requesting it and have sat on capacity over time. And we want to ensure that projects that are applying for capacity through the exemption process are ready to go and can have shovels in the ground and building permit quite quickly after any capacity may be committed to them. And currently there's a 5-point threshold, which many projects are able to achieve. So there'll be some consideration around the application process about increasing the threshold for the number of points required to be considered. Members of the development community also recommended if there's some priority areas where we want to see development or where we may have some specific plans in place to encourage that, to seeing if we can prioritize that within the request. But this is something that staff are continuing to look at to ensure, again, that projects that are shovel ready and ready to move forward when they do come in to apply for capacity through the exemption process, that we can ensure that we're supporting those projects that are ready to go. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to take questions. Anything related more on the technical side to our water pollution control plant, Director Finley is here to answer. But I just want to reiterate that this is a temporary measure. It's not meant to be long-term. It's to help us get through the next 2 years, year to 2 years, as the plant expansion for the first phase completes. And we're continuing to have those conversations and dialogue with our development community, and do encourage them to reach out in regards to their applications, even during the interim time that this bylaw is in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Questions? Councillor Strachan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to you, to Director Martin. Regarding the capacity allocation criteria and the proposed changes, would those only be valid for the time of the interim control bylaw? Is that the intent, or are those meant to be longer lasting?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Strachan, through your worship. So at this time, it would be for the period of time that the interim control bylaw is in. Once additional capacity is realized through the first phase and subsequent phases of the expansion of the water pollution control plant, staff will revisit how we manage the capacity. We do have the capacity allocation bylaw itself, which we could always fall back on. Always looking at ways, and these are conversations we have internally as staff, as to how we can improve our processes and our application forms. We do get a lot of feedback from the development community, and even our own experiences through the evaluation process. So once we realize the coming online of the expansion, additional capacity coming into the system, when the interim control bylaw no longer exists because of it is temporary in nature, we certainly will be looking to what processes we're going to maintain from that capacity request. And, given that we are still continuing to see a high level of development interest in North Grenville, even when we get additional capacity, it's still important to ensure that we have a system to maintain it and track it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Colleagues, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Martin. Projects, development projects that currently have capacity, but there's no shovels in the ground yet, how long do they have to maintain that capacity, or how long do they have to have that capacity before they start actually building?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor, through your worship. So currently, under our existing capacity allocation bylaw, it's in place for a year with the ability for extension. When we had, I guess, a higher level of capacity available within the system, we were more amenable to extensions. More recently, with the number decreasing as more projects request and move forward, that number has decreased. And so we've been a little more stringent in projects where we haven't seen any progress and saying after the first initial year and pulling it back. That would be something that we would still maintain is that 1 year commitment of capacity. I know that the province has changed some legislation as well recently where projects that don't move forward, that municipalities can pull approvals for not moving forward. I can provide more context to council. I'd want to prepare a separate brief. I wasn't prepared to discuss their aspects of that, but that's just some mechanisms we do have available is that where projects aren't meaningfully moving forward or there's little or no progress, we do have the ability to pull capacity, whether it's through our existing program, which states a year, or through other legislative means.
Other questions, colleagues? So thank you so much, Ms. Martin. I know it's a lot of work to actually put this policy framework into place. It's complex. There's many moving parts, and of course, you have very eager developers. So just in terms of the exemption list that's here as part of the bylaw, was there a particular criteria applied to how the exemptions were established? And obviously, I think it's great that many of those exemptions are in there. I see no issues. I'm just curious if someone were to say, I'm not on that exemption list, was there a criteria for how they wouldn't have been on the exemption list? I'm not aware of anyone, of course, who has highlighted that to myself or council colleagues this evening, but I'm just curious to know what informed the decision-making around this particular list of exemptions.
Thank you, Your Worship. So those properties that are listed are properties that have already been allocated capacity, whether it's within a plan of subdivision or they have applied for capacity and haven't achieved building permit status yet. They're properties that have kind of reached that, they have capacity allocated for their project, but they may not necessarily have an active building permit pulled out for them. It's not, any of the properties listed there have gone through our capacity approval system, or like for subdivisions such as the Creek, which still have some vacant lots, we wanted to ensure that they weren't getting caught up in it because capacity for the Creek subdivision would have been allocated well over 5 years ago. So we did our best to do a review of our active developments to see where capacity had already been allocated to ensure that we weren't getting those properties caught up in this process. For any property that we may have missed, and we're human, we're not perfect, I do want to say that if there's something we did miss and they have capacity allocated, staff will bring just a recommendation forth to the Committee of Adjustment just to provide that exemption. What that rationale is that it's not on the list, but we still have to formally exempt it. Committee of Adjustment meets once a month, so we're confident that if there are things that have been missed, we can capture it pretty quickly.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very helpful, and it's a cue to anyone out there that if they felt that they had been missed in this process, there's an opportunity, obviously, to have a conversation with you and your team. And the other thing is, I know previously, we've been working under a capacity allocation bylaw, right? That created that criteria and helped to guide staff on where to grant remaining capacity. So obviously, the interim control bylaw has the effect of really suspending the allocation of further capacity beyond what has been committed. Have I summarized that right? And I'd like to invite the clerk. It would be very helpful if the PowerPoint remained on the screen. And maybe in future, we could incorporate it into the package. I know I kind of use it as a reference document as we're having a discussion, but perfect, that would be great, because I know there's a reference in that PowerPoint to what the ultimate effect is of the bylaw.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So it is a development freeze on lots that are not exempted
Right.
from the interim control bylaw. So anything up from like a zoning bylaw amendment, a minor variance, a building permit, site plan control application, none of those could proceed unless there's an exemption. And as mentioned, staff would consider, on a case-by-case basis, if we had a property come forward for a rezoning, we do implement the holding requirements through the zoning bylaw amendments for servicing capacity. So those are things that we can consider so that we can allow for certain development approvals to happen, understanding that there might be a delay in being able to actually get them to building permit until additional capacity comes in the system. So we do recognize that's one of the questions that was raised to us by the development community, and we'll be going back and looking at our processes to see what we can do to ensure that things can still move forward until such a time that more capacity comes into the system, because nobody wants to just sit there with a property and do nothing with it. We recognize that there's going to have to be some flexibility, and we're going to try to do our best to work with the developers to get them to that point, within the bylaw, whether it's an exemption, or how can we get to a point where understanding it's going to take, another 1.5 to 2 years to see that rated capacity come into the system. How can we still advance our projects in a meaningful way while meeting legislative requirements?
Thank you. And to that end, I think of some of the residential intensification we're seeing with sixplexes and fourplexes. And I'm sure in certain instances, you may have a small developer wanting to move ahead with some of those projects, knowing that they have the capital and the capacity to build and supplement the existing rental stock that's here. So what I'm hearing you say is those things aren't necessarily off the table. It just requires an application process and an evaluation about what's doable with the remaining capacity. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Your Worship. And similar to how we've been managing it through the capacity allocation bylaw, we're doing quarterly intakes, but we're going to move to biannual intakes just to, again, allow for more, if there is capacity returning to the system, it's a more meaningful number than trying to do it quarterly where you might see only small gains. But to that end, we will be providing further communication as to what that exemption process looks like, updating the application form and providing those clear communications to not just the development community, but the community at large. And again, just stressing that minor additions that don't require capacity or deck permits or pool permits would not be impacted. It's where you're doing a development that is going to add to our wastewater system that will have to have some consideration. So we'll keep council posted on the communications as well that go out for your benefit as well. But we do keep a good line of communication with the development community, and we'll utilize our communications channels to the community at large to provide that additional information.
For sure, and certainly appreciate that. And I think where this may get a little bit tricky is, a small property owner who maybe wants to take a single detached dwelling, maybe they're in the right zoning area where they can make it into a duplex or a fourplex. And I think it'll be important for the municipality to ensure that those opportunities may still exist. If you have a highly motivated property owner that can see their way to building something quickly. And my hope is that through the adoption of this bylaw, which I completely recognize is necessary, we don't create a chilling effect, if you will, especially for some of those smaller initiatives. Completely understand that when we're talking about large subdivisions, we need that additional capacity to come online. So that's pretty clear to me. So it's just those smaller efforts that really over time can result in certainly meaningful increases in the rental stock. So I'm hearing you say that the door is still open and that you'll do your best, work with Mike's team to ensure that any freed up capacity is well utilized. And that's, I think, what the objective overall is. And maybe, Mr. Finley, you can give us a brief update on where things stand with the expansion of the sewage treatment plant before we bring this discussion to a close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Council. I wish I should have put some pictures in the presentation because we are well into construction. There's a lot of concrete, rebar, a lot of equipment being constructed at the plant. We are currently looking at substantial completion for fall of 2026 for this first phase. So we are a little bit behind in when we originally awarded, when council originally awarded the project. We were looking at the end of summer or end of July, I would say. So there's a few months there that we're trying to make up. But like I said, we are working with the contractor and moving through a lot of construction. We have quite a crew there daily trying to keep the project moving. So it's moving well. We are working together well to keep this project moving, and then we will look to move into the Phase B construction or tender and construction as soon as we are able to. Understanding there's potential contractor conflicts if we have two contractors on site at once. We just have to work through that piece of it. And it will look like from our estimations or from our consultants' estimations about an 18-month construction period. So, but yes, we will pass through some updates on how the plant looks. And like I say, the tons of construction pieces going on right now.
Great, thank you. So with that, council colleagues, any other questions? Not seeing any. So the recommendation is that council pass and enact bylaw 3525, being a bylaw to establish an interim control bylaw for the urban service area as it relates to wastewater capacity for a period of 1 year. And I understand, Ms. Martin, if I've heard you correctly, that the maximum is 2 years in any case. Yeah. Okay, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder then. Deputy Mayor, seconder. Councilor Strachan, thank you. Any further comments or questions? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to H.2, and that is our proposed tax deferral program for County Road 43 businesses. I believe Ms. Dunlop. Oh, I apologize. Mr. Dancy, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, we are here today to seek council direction on a tax deferral program for commercial property owners affected by the construction on County Road 43. I'll just quickly go through. The County Road 43 expansion project is a multi-year infrastructure initiative that, when completed, will significantly improve transportation through North Grenville. During this construction phase, some commercial properties have experienced reduced access, visibility, and/or customer traffic. I would like to point out early in the discussion that it's extremely rare to find a municipality the size of North Grenville to offer a tax deferral to businesses affected by construction. There's probably a couple of reasons for that, which will become apparent further on. The financial implications of the program as proposed, with the construction zone being defined as between Colonnade Road and 200 meters past the intersection of 43 and 44, we've limited the eligible properties to those fronting County Road 43. And there's 27 properties that would be considered eligible for this tax deferral. For the 2025 tax year, these properties had a total tax bill of just over $746,000, with a municipal portion of just under $282,000. To date, the balances for those brackets is just about $330,000 still outstanding in total, of which $125,000 is the municipal portion thereof. So the deferral of taxes, we would have to cash manage that amount, either in full or in part, depending on which layer of taxes we would offer deferral on. This would mean that we would have to cash manage through the rest of the year, possibly by delaying purchases or not offering some services or whatever that has been already provided in the budget. To offer the deferral on the full tax bills, we would need to get the counties and school boards' approval as we collect on their behalf. We'd still have to remit it regardless of offering a tax deferral if their approval was not given. I can't speak to the counties, but I do know getting the approval from the school boards would be very unlikely, given that their budgets have to be approved by June 30th of the year if they haven't already been, and their timeline is somewhat different as it's a September to August fiscal year, so they would have already spent most of the money for this year and have planned for next year accordingly. Anyways, our draft program overview would operate as follows. To be eligible, the property must meet all the following criteria. Classified as commercial or shopping center, either entirely or in part. Fronting on County Road 43. Be located within a defined construction zone which extends from County Road 19 west to 200 meters past the Highway 44 intersection. And they must be in good compliance with the municipality on all financial matters outstanding, such as no outstanding 2023 taxes, compliance or property standard orders. We're proposing the deferral terms would just be the municipal portion of the tax bill only. The deferral period would be from the date of the approval through December 18th, 2026. 2025 municipal taxes that have been paid to date would not be refunded, but only the outstanding balances. There'll be no interest or late payments. Penalties will be applied to the deferred portion during the run of the deferral period. Full repayment of the deferred taxes would be due by December 18th, 2026, which is 2 weeks before the end of the year, to give us an opportunity to process them all. And of course, should the property owner wish to pay early, we would be more than happy to accept. The application process would be pretty straightforward. We would offer an application form to be filled out, either online or brought into the municipal office. I'm suggesting the applications must be submitted by September 19th, which is slightly before the last payment date of the tax bills. Each application will be reviewed by the Finance Department to confirm that they meet all the eligibility requirements, and we will provide the applicants with written confirmation and updated tax statements reflecting the deferred amounts. The conditions and limitations on the program as presented would only be for the properties directly fronting the construction zone of County 43, as we discussed. It's going to be limited to the municipal portion of property taxes only. The participants would still continue to pay the county and educational portions of the bill. If the property is sold prior to December 18th, 2026, the full deferred amount becomes due upon closing, unless there's an agreement with the new owner to continue with the deferral. We would encourage property owners that are not the sole business operator at an eligible location to provide some sort of relief to their tenants. However, we're not going to get involved in the rent discussion between a tenant and a property owner. Should it come down to that, we can encourage, but I don't think we can force, other than not giving it to them. Some of the pros in favor of the tax deferral plan is, of course, to improve cash flow for the business. It will let them recover from the disrupted sales during the construction period. There's immediate cash relief for them, helping them stay afloat until the sales pick up again. There's support for the recovery, not only so they'll have time to ramp up back up to the levels of activity prior to the construction, and so they can get them to reinvest in marketing inventory or their own infrastructure once the access improves. And of course, it shows a positive business relationship with the community, showing that we care about the business and we understand the challenges they face with this construction project, this will foster good relationships and encourages businesses to stay in place and to survive. Some of the cons reflected with the tax deferral plan is, of course, the immediate revenue shortfall to the municipality. It means the money we received will be delayed, which impacts our ability to fund essential services, ongoing projects, or debt obligations in the short term. There's a budgeting challenge because we don't know what the pickup will be in terms of this program. And so we have to wait until actually we see how many people apply and what the dollar amounts will be. Then there's also what be the perceived fairness and eligibility. We are offering it to affected businesses, but what does effective mean? And how much, and who's affected by how much? This can lead to disputes and perceptions of unfairness. And of course, the other businesses who are not in the construction zone may feel it's unfair that the others do, whereas they feel that their businesses have also been affected by the construction. Where do you draw that line? This is by giving it an advantage to one section of businesses, but not all. This might be construed as bonusing, which is prohibited in the Municipal Act. And of course, there's a future collection risk. Although this is a waiver and we fully expect to recoup all the money that's been deferred, there's always a risk that somebody won't pay at the end of the deferral period, which means we've not only had to self-finance that amount, but then we also have to write off that amount should they decide not to pay. And that's pretty much the brief high-level discussion on the project. I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you, colleagues. I have a couple of questions, but I'll defer to anyone else. Councillor Strachan?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor, to Mr. Dancy. I have a few questions, and I'll limit them so that others can get their questions in. The portion that you mentioned about the 2025 municipal taxes paid to date will not be refunded, but we have 125,000 that are currently outstanding. Would those who have not paid their $125,000 and are not in good standing as of this year's taxes be eligible?
Yes, they would have to have their full 2024 taxes paid to date. The amount outstanding, don't forget, there is two installments, the second of which hasn't become due yet, or the third for that matter. So anybody, they would have to have the 2024 taxes paid to date. 2025 taxes, maybe we would look into that, but everything has to be at least at the end of 2024 up to date.
Okay, I think my concern is that, well, if they're considered outstanding, then I consider that to be late. Perhaps the wording isn't what is intended. I think my concern would be that we're already going to have to cash flow mitigate, so where we could collect on in a reasonable time frame, I think would seem reasonable to me, so that they would be up to date. But I understand your reasoning there. The comment about property owners. Property owners aren't the ones who are necessarily losing the income unless the businesses close. It's the businesses that really need to have the break. And if it's not passed on between property owners to business owners, then we're kind of missing the mark, I think, on that one. Yes, definitely difficult to get in between that, in that relationship. Perhaps it can be accomplished by requesting some sort of a commitment from property owners who would be receiving this tax break or deferral to, commit to passing on some portion of the savings that they're going to have in the immediate term. I'm not sure what the best mechanism is for that, but I would think that the intent behind this is for the businesses that are losing customers potentially. So food for thought on that one. And regarding the cons, I don't think we would avoid paying for essential services. The words that you use in there, I think that would be the last thing we would cut if this goes through. So I understand what you're saying is that we'd have to make some trade-offs, but I think it'll be on the fun stuff, not on the essential things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on that note, might I ask, the municipality collects just over $20 million a year in taxes. There must be working reserves within the municipality that support all sorts of cash flow management issues. I, too, was somewhat concerned about the language of a disruption of services because I can't imagine that the municipality's financial state is so perilous that we would be forced into a zero-sum decision-making here. Clearly, there are healthy working reserves for the municipality.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize for the dire wording within the report. I'm just highlighting worst-case scenarios on all of that. Yes, there is reserves that could handle this amount, but by using those reserves, there is an opportunity of cost of not using them for something else. Regarding Councillor Strachan's comments on the trickle-down benefits, I would expect that we would have on the application process in a wording in there suggesting showing our encouragement for exactly that type of thing. We recognize that the business operators are not necessarily the property owners. And as part of the application process, we would ask that the property owners explain how they would provide a trickle-down benefit to the businesses on site.
As guidance, not a prescription, clearly.
Yes.
Right,
yeah,
because we have no jurisdiction.
Yes, yeah, we have no jurisdiction, but we would like to know how they, and that would factor into the decision-making, I would anticipate.
Indeed. Okay, I have a couple of questions, but I'm happy to defer to someone else. So I'll go to Deputy Mayor, and then I'll put myself on the list.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to you, as you sit on County Council, has there been any discussion at the County Council about relieving the county portion of the businesses along that section of 43?
I believe that Ms. Dunlop can answer this because it has been highlighted as a possibility.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it has been raised at a staff level, not at the county council table. But should we receive that direction this evening, we would make sure that we action that and request the same at the county level. And again, we will ask should we receive that direction at the education level, but as Mr. Dancy has identified, it's improbable, but never unlikely.
Certainly, I should say that the warden, our new warden, Karina Smith-Gacke, is aware that this is coming to council, generally expressed support for the direction. I might say that, in my opinion, I believe the vast majority of businesses have no interest in availing of this program. I think businesses along 43, for the most part, are doing very well. However, we have been alerted to a handful of businesses that are struggling. Whether or not they would pursue the opportunity for a deferral program, I think is still very unclear. But in speaking with a number of businesses on 43 and one of the county's new senior managers, he highlighted that the City of Ottawa had embarked upon a similar tax deferral program for the Elgin Street reconstruction, and that in his mind, it was one of the only available mechanisms that would allow, again, what I think would be a very small number of businesses to pursue a temporary relief. The reality is that this is the largest capital construction project, roads project, in county's history, in the municipality's history, and it is multi-year on the same stretch of road. So certainly when I had the opportunity to speak to the newly hired senior manager working under Bill Guy, and he flagged deferral as a mechanism, I thought it would be valuable to bring to this table. I did want to ask, because it's application, right, it's an application-based program, if for some reason the uptake on the program was more than we expect, I assume, Ms. Dunlop, in consultation with Mr. Dancy, you'd have jurisdiction to accept a small number of applications, up to 5, that didn't exceed, for example, 200,000, if you felt that was the most that the municipality could manage in terms of a deferral portion from the municipality itself. As I read the report and heard Mr. Dancy's presentation, I'm assuming that you could assume that discretion so that if we were to pursue the deferral program, it would be up to you as our CAO to really, monitor what made sense from a fiscal health perspective for the municipality, because I don't think anyone around this table is looking to imperil the municipality's financial well-being. And again, because I'm very familiar with how the county's structures its financial operations, I understand there are working reserves. I understand we have them here, and they do allow the municipality to have to manage all sorts of cash management, we'll call them challenges or timing issues that allow us to pay the bills while still, on occasion managing a perceived or a real sort of disruption, if you will, in a small portion of revenue. Could you just speak to that? And then I'll recognize Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have not put any limits or delegated authorities embedded within the program that's before you this evening. We've highlighted the numbers in regards to what an annual tax bill, all three components would be for all the 27 properties identified. but you're correct that there will probably be few and far between, a handful that may take part in this program. And as we're looking for council's direction, one of the items for direction could be delegated authority up to a maximum per year to the CAO as part of this program. And also, of course, to have it rise to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville for consideration of the same program for the county level component and possibly even the education.
Understanding the education piece is complex. I'm not sure that would be worth pursuing, but certainly there's two portions of the property tax that are paid that I think are most directly within our control. But I appreciate that, and I'll recognize Deputy Mayor and Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Wilson, if you'd also like to speak, let me know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up on your question and the CAO's suggestion, I'd be happy to move the motion with a cap, and we can discuss what that cap would be. But I would just note that of the 281,000 currently owing this year, that we've already collected 124, so the difference of 127 would be the maximum cap. We could talk about a number less than that, but I think a cap is a good idea, and direction to staff to pursue at least the county for the equivalent 83,000, well, $105,000 they've yet to collect, or we've yet to transfer to the county, excuse me.
And I assume the outstanding amounts for 2025 is because some properties choose to pay incrementally, whereas other properties pay all at once, correct? So it's not that anyone is, right? There's no one is late or in arrears. It's just that their decision in terms of how to pay for the property tax is throughout the year, right?
Yes, Madam Mayor, you're
Right.
correct with that assumption, yeah.
Okay. Great. I think we had Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Deputy Director Dancy. Can you just tell me, please, the address 3000 Wellington Road, I believe that's been changed. I don't think 3000 Wellington Road exists, but if it's where I think it is, it's east of County Road 19. And so
Oh, I think actually Ms. Dunlop can speak to that right now.
Through you, Your Worship, you are correct. The legal address for 3000 Wellington Road is 3000 County Road 43. It is the Kevlar Starbucks development, and we will take care of that. I thought that the legal papers had already gone through,
Okay.
but we'll correct that.
Okay, thank you. That's where I thought it was. But my question is, would they be eligible for this relief, given the fact that actually I'm quite confident that there's a large amount of traffic that's using County Road 19 and Wellington Road to avoid County Road 43. And so I would suspect that the business in that area has probably increased, if anything.
Sure. Through Madam Mayor to Councillor, that property is included as we defined the boundary arbitrarily, and we would look for council direction to change it if they so wish.
Certainly, I think, as I understood the presentation, the idea was to be very cut and dried about who qualified. Clearly, I think the report reflects the spirit of the initial conversation that was had with the counties and a number of businesses where I think we need a narrowly defined criteria that focuses solely on a continuous period over multiple years in terms of who is impacted. So I think the rationale to have properties that are fronting on 43 makes the most sense. I think if we start bringing more nuance to it, I worry that we're kind of going beyond what appears to be a very simple definition who qualifies. We recognize that maybe other businesses who believe they've been impacted, but the rationale, I think, behind this program, certainly in terms of the initial conversation, was where construction has been not just months, but years in the making, and will continue to impact some of those businesses for the year to come? Is there a way to provide very short, relatively short-term relief? Mr. Danza, I did want to ask, you speak of forfeiting revenue if property tax is not paid. Whether tax is deferred and not paid or not paid, I've understood the municipality has a very strong mechanism and recourse to recover property tax in the long run. The deferral program doesn't introduce any more risk in my mind. If a property in any municipality in Canada doesn't pay its property taxes, or certainly in Ontario, it appears that the mechanisms for recovery are fairly well established. So I don't know if I see this as introducing more risk in terms of taxes being paid. It certainly defers the amount of tax to be paid, but the mechanisms available to the municipality to recover for lost property tax are still fully available. Is that correct?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That it would be correct. However, I just wanted to highlight the fact that by waiving the taxes, there's still the risk of somebody not paying the taxes at the later dates. So it's probably more the timing of the loss of cash flow than the actual. To recoup is the same regardless of when these things are in play.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to be very popular with some of my comments I'm going to make here. I'm in favor of us deferring or giving the businesses along 43 a tax deferral because it's been a multi-year project. In the past, in North Granville, we've had many other roads leading to businesses that have been affected. When we did the Main Street revitalization, there were many businesses affected. When we did Clothier Street revitalization, there were many businesses affected. Most of those businesses are still there. We did not give tax deferrals. The Bedell Hill was reconstructed, which caused a lot of traffic not to be diverted to the downtown. There were some business losses there. But because this is a multi-year project, I think that it would be in our best interest, or I don't know if the wording is right with what I'm saying, but I think it's a fair thing to do for these businesses. However, I would like to make sure that the businesses that have indicated that they're suffering or have lost business, that they are talking to their landlords and making sure that if this does go through, that they have that communication with the landlords, that the landlords will apply on their behalf and help them with their rents or defer or reduce their rent in the amount of the taxes they pay. Sometimes they don't know how much they're paying as far as taxes. I think, yeah, the communication has to be there. The landlords can advocate on behalf of the people that are renting from them. And I think there will only be a very small amount, maybe a handful, that will need this. So I just wanted to say that I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strickland, and then back to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps to you, Madam Mayor, perhaps to Mr. Dancy, because you may have an idea of which businesses are interested in seeking this tax deferral. I'm not sure what the right number is. To the Deputy Mayor's point about creating a cap, if we were to say 100,000, you could get 3 of the businesses here and they would use up the entire 100,000, as opposed to being able to, perhaps get 10 or 15 the tax break based on just the amount of tax that they're paying. So without divulging anything, because nobody's made a commitment and this isn't live yet, I think I would be turning to either of you to provide some guidance as to what a cap would look like. Otherwise, we're sort of taking a stab in the dark. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
And I wonder, Ms. Dunlop, if you, in consultation with Mr. Dancy, would be best equipped to determine an appropriate amount right, keeping in mind some of the other considerations. I will say, Councillor Strachan, to the rest of council, I personally heard of one business inquire about the existence of a potential program, not say they were going to use it, just inquire based upon their understanding of what had happened more recently in the city of Ottawa. I understand the city of Ottawa is obviously a larger center, but the reality is the number of businesses that were affected, for example, on Elgin Street, where a deferral program is in place, is probably comparable to a section of 43. So from that perspective, I can only speak of one that made an inquiry and through some conversation with, again, a county public works senior manager who had come from the city of Ottawa, he highlighted the opportunity. Ms. Dunlop, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, but I agree. There have only been a couple that have highlighted their interest in such a program, one specifically, and if the dollar value can be estimated based on the list, I would say we're less than $125,000 maximum for the majority of who we anticipate, but who we anticipate and who actually comes forward may be slightly different.
But perhaps if there's any concern about the fiscal health of the municipality in regards to the program, which I don't think is a true reflection of the municipality's current state of affairs. But if you had a working reserve that you were keeping an eye on and you were trying to manage that working reserve, which is a way of supporting cash flow from on a month-to-month basis, I think you would be best equipped to sort of navigate what is an appropriate threshold. I don't know if we can really determine that without better insight, and I think you're probably the best equipped. So if Deputy Mayor wants, or if other members of council wishes to set a threshold, maybe that's information that you could bring back to us. Or alternately, we can set a threshold this evening if that's the will of council, and then should you receive further expressions of interest and feel confident that we can manage that, you could bring that back to council as an additional consideration in terms of whether or not the threshold stays, the threshold sticks, if you will. Yes.
The other item that's written within one of the items to consider is the September 19th deadline. So if a cap or some sort of reserve, working fund, et cetera, maybe the option would be that we would see what the uptake is for the 2025 budgetary year. And by the end of the year, we report back to say what that uptake is, and then put limits at that point in time on it. So maybe at this point in time, we put a limit in regards to the value of the balance of taxes owed for the 2025 budget year, and we report back by the end of the year.
Certainly, that sounds like an option. Deputy Mayor?
I'd be willing to make a motion with that kind of cap. In other words, the cap being 127,000, which I figure is what's remaining to be paid for the rest of the year, and as well as some direction to staff to pursue the county equivalent. Okay, so I'm more than happy to make that motion if someone wants to second. Well, you can call for a seconder, not me.
So the recommendation is that council direct staff on a tax deferral program for commercial property owners within the County Road 43 construction zone up to, what's the number again?
Yeah, 127, I think.
100,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed 100, we'll say 128,000.
Okay.
I think it's 127,000 and change. I don't have the precise number in front of me if someone wants to read it out. Ms. Dunlop, we'll consider that Deputy Mayor has moved the motion. I'll look for a seconder. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilson, thank you. And the precise amount, Ms. Dunlop, do you have it there?
What I read in the report is 125,000, but I don't see that 127 figure. I see 125,000 even for the municipal component.
That's what we've collected, so the remaining is 127.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry to interject. However, the outstanding balance of the municipal portion for these properties is the $125,000. That's the balance. So there would have been 160,000 paid to date with the remaining balance outstanding.
Okay. So we'll say 125,000.
Perfect.
so to a maximum of 125,000. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other? Oh, I
Yeah,
apologize.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'd be happy to read the motion. That council direct staff on a tax deferral program for commercial property owners within the County Road 43 construction zone not to exceed 125,000, and to direct staff to seek the county equivalent. Does that work?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Councilor Strahan.
Through you, to you, Madam Mayor, for perhaps the deputy mayor. And I'm not sure if we need wording to address the 2026 component at this stage to request that the staff return with a recommendation for 2026 tax deferral as well, because the 125K is only for this year. I don't know if we want to include that language right now so that we leave that door open for the 2026 season as well to be evaluated, at that time.
I'd take that as a friendly amendment.
I meant it friendly, thank you.
Yeah. I didn't growl.
Ms. Berman, were you able to capture that third piece? Okay, great. So I think we have a motion that has been moved and seconded. Councilor Strahan? Yes, I think Councilor Wilson seconded it. And I think you've captured the essence of the motion. Would you like to read it back to us? It's not obligatory.
I will be honest that I've captured the essence, but I do not have the wording until I prepare the minutes. But anyway, the council directs staff on the tax deferral program for the commercial property owners within the County Road 43 construction zone not to exceed 125,000, may I add, in the 2025 year for clarity. 2025 year. Deputy Mayor, I do believe that I may have missed something about the counties, but I do have and for staff to report back for the deferral program for the 2026 year.
Yeah, I think I added before the last part and direct staff to seek the county equivalent.
Great.
That's
Okay.
it in a nutshell.
I think
Yes, I'll reference the county portion of the taxes. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I think we're relatively clear on what's being sought. It's been moved and seconded. I appreciate the conversation. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Excellent. So, speaking of 43, additional communication support for County Road 43 construction. Who is taking that one? Thank you, Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do not have any prepared speaking notes this evening, so I will just summarize the report quickly. The intent of the report is to have a general reserve draw of $16,000 to support an enhanced communication program for the County Road 43 construction during the 2025 fiscal year. The current construction contract administrator has a contract with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville for construction website, as well as some communication and stakeholder engagement. What this report and the intent is to seek a further engagement, a higher level of engagement, to have for the balance of the 26 weeks within the 2025 fiscal year, to have a weekly quarter-page ad in a local paper, as well as a 15-second radio ad 3 times a day for the balance of 26 weeks. In addition, it leaves approximately $3,000. The actual weekly prices for both the radio and the paper are not, have been tweaked since the creation of this report, but it will leave it a little under $3,000 for business engagement and outreach for the balance of the 2025 fiscal year. And that completes my report, unless there's questions.
Colleagues, any questions? Not seeing any. So the recommendation is that council authorize a draw from general reserves of $16,000 to support an enhanced communication outreach program and business engagement. So can I look for a mover and a seconder? Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Strahan, thank you. Certainly, I know earlier this year that program was launched. It was well appreciated, I think. Certainly, and Matt Gilmer and his team have also enhanced their directory to make sure that there's a dedicated focus on 43, if you're just looking for those 43 businesses. So given all of that investment, I think it would be great to capitalize on some additional visibility and promotion. So seeing no hands, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you. And colleagues, we now go to correspondence. Under correspondence, we have the 35 years of Community Futures. And I didn't say this in my opening remarks, but there is a Sustainable Business Summit being co-hosted by the Mayor's Task Force and Community Futures. I trust all council colleagues have received an invitation. Is everyone aware of the Sustainable Business Summit happening on Thursday? Okay, so of course you're all welcome. I have to thank our own staff, but particularly Community Futures, who did take the lead and have developed a substantial 3-hour program to stimulate a conversation among businesses in the region, not just here in North Grenville, that have an interest in looking at climate change mitigation, energy efficiency, exploring opportunities for federal and provincial funding, and innovation that is out there in the world and is proven. So we look forward to welcoming, I think, about 50 registrants on Thursday. So hope to see you there. So I think that is the correspondence. And I do see under miscellaneous to unfinished business, K1, the County Road 20 zoning amendments. Who would be speaking to that? Ms. Martin, hi.
Hi. So under the requirements of the Planning Act for giving notice, we need a reason from council as to why you refused the application. Based on the comments that were made, there were a variety of discussions that happened that evening, but no reason was presented with the refusal. So staff are coming back to council to provide the reason for the refusal that we can circulate on the notices, which have to go up by this Thursday to meet the 15-day timeline.
The 15-day timeline?
For issuing the notice of refusal. So under the Planning Act, we have to provide a notice of decision. We have 15 days after the meeting to issue that.
Okay, great. I believe we would be looking potentially for a decision this evening or just a discussion this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. It would just be, I need some direction from council as to the wording and the rationale behind why council had refused the application.
Okay. Councillor Strachan?
I apologize. I should have recused myself, Madam Mayor. I missed this one on the agenda. I recused myself last time. So I will leave while the discussion takes place.
And to that end, I'm actually going to, it's 8:15. We've been meeting for 2 hours, so I'm going to take a 10-minute recess. And then, Councillor Strachan, you can avail of the opportunity to step out of the room. I'm reminded that in order to take a recess, we now need a motion as per our new procedural bylaw. So I'll look to a mover and a seconder to take a 10-minute recess. Councillor Sullivan, Deputy Mayor, thank you. And I'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks. We're under miscellaneous unfinished business in regards to the decision for County Road 20 in terms of the ZBA 0425. And the address in question, of course, is 2984 County Road 20. So I know that Ms. Martin is seeking a rationale for the decision that was made, or the refusal for the zoning amendment that was brought before council last week in regards to 2984 County Road 20. So I'd invite any member of council to start us off on hopefully what will be a brief conversation about the rationale for that decision. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While I can't speak for the rest of the council, personally, I voted not to approve based on the comments at the public meeting that it's my opinion that canine and equine commercial operations are not compatible uses in the rural area.
Okay. So council, does that more or less reflect the rationale behind the decision that was made? Of course, I don't think anyone voted in favor of the recommendation, so we were more or less on the same page. So I'll just look to any comments about whether or not Deputy Mayor's explanation reflects what transpired that evening. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Wilson?
Through you, Mayor Peckford. I think the other comment made was that the equine facility was well established and there for first and should have been allowed to be there. And the other, there was something said about the setbacks between the property lines too. Yeah. So
I think the proximity between the property line and where the kennel was proposed to operate was quite close.
Yeah.
All right. So incompatibility, proximity of, I think, the properties and their activities, as well as Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you. I think you've captured it. And as Councillor Wilson mentioned, the line between the dog run was only 1 meter away from the property line. And that was abutting the field where they have cones and have established this training area for the horses. I also asked the question about because given that both properties had a significant amount of land, I asked the question, what could anything be done to make it compatible, make it agreeable for both to coexist beside each other? And the indication was no, that there was nothing that they could change to make that happen.
Okay. Ms. Martin, I assume what you need is this kind of reflection on the evening, or do you need it crystallized into something more formal, or are you just sort of gathering the perspectives of council members? Is that sufficient?
Thank you, Your Worship. So essentially, I've been taking note of what members of council have said in regards to the rationale. I'm certain that I can summarize what's been said. The majority of the concern was really in relation to the concerns over compatibility between the proposed kennel and the existing equine operation as it relates to setbacks. And I don't know from the clerk's perspective if Ms. Remig needs a formal resolution or motion, or if my summary of the concerns as dictated by council this evening is in regards to compatibility of the proposed operation to the existing equine facility as it relates to setbacks and use is adequate.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I just make a comment because it wasn't part of my rationale, but setbacks, the amount of setbacks, I think is immaterial because it's not just visual, but it's the smell and the sound, which no amount of setback is going to mitigate. So I wouldn't say it's based on setbacks issues. I'm just straight incompatibility between equine and canine operations. If they're within sight, smell, or sound of each other.
Ms. Remy?
So to answer Ms. Martin's question, I just wanted to clarify that I do not require a motion. However, I do want to point out to Deputy Mayor's point here that what Ms. Martin's looking for the notice of decision is the reasoning of council as a whole. So while I respect that Deputy Mayor noted his opinion, I believe the setback issue that came into play that Ms. Martin was trying to interpret was brought forward by Councillor O'Sullivan as well as Councillor Wilson. So in this information that needs to be contained in the notice of decision, we're trying to encompass the opinions of council as a whole as to why they made the decision that they did. So we are trying to capture all considerations that members are bringing forward in the debrief that will be included in the notice of decision, and I just want to clarify that.
Okay, great. Is there anything else council colleagues wish to put on the table before we bring this matter to a close? I know we have a closed session following, so just conscious of time. Okay, then I think we can invite Councillor Strachan back in the room. I think we're supposed to send her a quick text, or Ms. Dunlop is going to go get her. Okay, I'll leave it to other council colleagues to alert her, or Mr. Mosher, I think, might be doing that. And I'll proceed to read the motion to get us into closed. And that is that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of North Grenville move into closed session at 8:38 p.m. in accordance with the following, Section 2392B of the Municipal Act, which states a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the matter being considered is personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, specifically as it relates to advisory committee applications, and Section 2392K of the Municipal Act 2001, which states a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the matter being considered is a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, specifically as it relates to parkland acquisition, conditional approval agreement for Bell Hall and a parking lot at 21 Clothier Street East. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor O'Sullivan, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Any comments or questions in regards to closed? Not seeing any, then I will call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Okay. So we are just waiting to Okay, colleagues, we are here and are coming out of closed. The motion this evening, our first motion for this section of our council meeting is to resume open session, and that would be at 9:59 p.m. And I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Wilson and Stracher-Yan. All right, so resuming session at 9:59 p.m. All in favor? Great, thank you. Next, colleagues, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder in regards to the approval of the following appointments to the advisory committees of council. Carrie Marceau for the Environmental Action Advisory Committee, and Christy Johnson for the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillors O'Sullivan and Barclay, are you willing to move and second that? We're excited to see these new members of the committee. I'll call the vote. All in favor? We know they're well qualified and highly motivated, so look forward to having them join, and that vote carried. Next is a motion in regards to an expression of interest. The motion is that council pass a resolution expressing interest in potentially purchasing property, which has been declared surplus by the Conseil des écoles publiques de l'Est de l'Ontario. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Stracher-Yan and Wilson, thank you. Any concerns or questions in regards to this motion? Not seeing any, so we'll call the vote. All in favor? That passes. Thank you. And finally, that council authorizes, this motion is in regards to Bell Hall. As colleagues are aware, we've had lots of discussion about the opportunity to repurpose a Bell Hall, and many efforts have been made up to this point to create the conditions for that to be possible. The motion this evening is that council authorizes the chief administrative officer to enter into an agreement for the conditional approval of $24,031,000 for the conversion of Bell Hall into 60 affordable rental units. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. A seconder. Sullivan, thank you. Any comments or questions in regards to the conversion of Bell Hall? I know we've received lots of interest from members of the public about that opportunity. So it's exciting to see things continue to progress in that regard. I'll look for any other comments or questions. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All right, that carries. So with that, we'll look for a confirmatory bylaw and a motion to adjourn. I'll just look to Ms. Remming for the confirmatory bylaw, if I might. And then, colleagues, we'll be close to adjournment at 10:05. There we are. And that is that our confirmation bylaw is that bylaw 5625 to confirm proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on June 24th, 2025 be adopted and passed. Councillor O'Sullivan and Stracher-Yan, do you mind moving and seconding? All right, and then I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? And then motion to adjourn at 10:04. Councillors Wilson and Barclay, would you like to move in second? Excellent. And I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Okay, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.